Dokja realizes she's taken on Sana's form again. She escorts him into the hall and remarks that he did something pointless while in Tartarus. There he sees the great sage, heaven's equal, lounging on a sofa, and wonders if he's always been that relaxed. He finds it impressive that the sage has a spot on the second floor. The queen offers Dokja a seat beside her. To the east is Olympus, to the west is Veda, and to the north are smaller nebulae, like the one the great sage belongs to. To the south lies Eden, recognizable by their wings. However, Dokja is taken aback when he notices an angel dressed in black, strangely resembling a devil. He remembers something from a devil's tale and wonders if she might be one of them. He calls the queen over and politely asks for permission to ask a question. He asks if there's a constellation present who goes by the name Secretive Plotter. At that moment, the Dokkaebi announces the beginning of the story succession and calls all incarnations to enter the secret room. Everyone proceeds into their designated rooms. As Dokja reflects on his earlier conversation with the queen, she answers. She doesn't recall any constellation by that name. She then asks him if he's made his decision yet. The succession is about to begin. She adds that many constellations hope to force him into using his reincarnation ability, but she's confident he will refuse them all. Finally, she warns him that they'll strike him with a copyright violation, and he wonders how a story can even be copyrighted. Dokja asks the queen if she's trying to tell him he should join Olympus, but she immediately replies that she would never want that. She hates their guts. Dokja recalls that this person had a hostile relationship with Olympus and TWSA. In fact, there are Olympus constellations who hesitate to speak with him simply because he's associated with her. More precisely, they fear Hades. Dokja realizes that he's ended up unintentionally under the protection of the underworld. Or perhaps he was just lucky that the first fabled constellation he encountered was her. The process of story succession is relatively simple. Incarnations secretly meet with constellations in designated rooms, hear their offers, and later announce which story they've chosen to inherit on the central podium. Just before entering the room, Dokja nudges the Dokkaebi and shuts the door behind him. He is notified that he has become the room owner for the next hour. The secret room guarantees absolute secrecy, even from the starstream. Not even the cubist can observe what happens inside. The maximum time allowed is 1 hour. He remembers the queen's words, "Whoever you choose, you'll make enemies." But she had also asked him to reconsider. Was this really about making enemies? Now he understands. It's not. He is advised to meet as many constellations as possible within the limited time. He sits at a table where an old man is already waiting. The man declares he chose the blessing of resurrection. Dokja receives a notification. The constellation founder of mankind is glaring at you. Dokja thinks, so India is first? According to the Indian epic, Manu was the sole survivor of a great flood. In exchange for saving a small fish, he prepared a boat and sailed to the peak of the Himalayas to survive. The Veda camp has sent Manu, known as the founder of mankind, to negotiate. Manu is also known to frequently clash with the master of the Ark of Eden over copyright claims to this very story. In other words, he's an expert on such legal matters in the Veda camp. Dokja asks him why the master of December 25th didn't come instead. Manu replies that the master has more important things to do, and that all Dokja needs to do is answer his question. Will he accept the blessing of resurrection or not? It's clear to Dokja that Manu has chosen to take this arrogant stance with him. What's more, the protagonist of the story, Mitra, isn't even present. Dokja asks what Veda can offer him in exchange for accepting the blessing. Manu replies they can grant him the sun god's blessing. When Dokja asks for details, Manu scoffs and rudely asks if he really needs to explain everything to a lowly mortal like him. Angered, Dokja fires back, asking if he doesn't find that attitude a little too cliché. How long will they keep looking down on humans when it's the humans who cherish and carry forward the stories? He uses his authority in the secret room and receives a notification. The constellation, founder of mankind, will be expelled from the room. The old man is stunned and vanishes. Dokja thinks, I've got the upper hand here. He calls in the next constellation. A man enters and invites him to join Olympus. Dokja receives another notification. The constellation, the one who poked out his own eyes, smiles at you. The man says Dokja must already know who he is. Dokja nods, of course. Every Korean university student hears about him in their liberal arts classes. He is King Oedipus. Dokja tells him that he's already received a proposal from the god of alcohol and ecstasy, Dionysus, and asks if Oedipus is here to make him the leader of the Bacchus sect. Oedipus seems surprised Dokja caught on so quickly. Still, Dokja doesn't feel great about this. He knows Persephone is hostile toward Olympus. Dionysus had warned him not to trust anyone, and neither of them had ever directly asked him to join Olympus. The queen also said she wasn't there to recruit him on behalf of the Bacchus faction, nor was she there to claim the copyright over the resurrection story. That leaves Dokja wondering, maybe the person standing in front of him is the true representative of Olympus. The king says the story they are offering him is Lightning Carnival. The king says he is also familiar with the story, but Lightning Carnival is a story that belongs to Zeus, one of the big three. The king says the story they are there to offer him is on a different level from the reincarnation stories that other nebulae are offering him. Dokja asks him why he is making him such an offer. He replies that he and the three goddesses of fate have seen a fragment of his fate. He is sure that Dokja will soon gain the qualification to succeed Lightning Carnival, and he could just succeed in his story of the blind prophet. But he won't do that since he is already rumored to be a prophet. He leaves the room, asking Dokja to choose for himself, but says he will need Olympus soon. He leaves the room. Dokja doesn't understand what fate Edius is talking about, but if the three goddesses of fate are involved, what they saw will surely happen to him. He wonders why Edius is talking about a story of Olympus. Of all nebulae, he is thinking about the situation when a lady enters the room. Dokja says he thought the master of the ark would come, but she came herself. The constellations who have been with him since the beginning of the scenario are the demonic judge of fire, Uriel. She asks him if he is disappointed to see her, and he realizes that Uriel is this cute. She exclaims that she has always wanted to see him and hugs him tightly. Dokja smiles and says he also wants to meet her. He asks her if she has come there to ask him to choose the Messiah's path. She praises him, saying she wanted him to do this because he was very good looking. She asks him if he will accept Eden's story, and he replies that he will have to think about that. She exclaims that their story is best and the other stories don't even compare. He thinks the Messiah's path is definitely one of the top reincarnation stories, but he tells her that he will lose something important if he chooses that story. She knows that he will end up a eunuch if they choose their story, and Dokja doesn't think this would be enough to convince her. He wonders if his becoming a eunuch is a big problem for Uriel. She tells him that Metatron will ban her from using the internet for a month if she doesn't manage to bring Dokja to their side. She asks him if he can find a different arrangement he can explore. She then asks him not to worry about becoming a eunuch and that they will find a way for him too. Dokja refuses her, saying he doesn't want to be a eunuch, and she says she will make it so that, even if he is a eunuch, Dokja uses his authority and calls the next constellation. Many other nebulae visited him after that, and the historical constellations of Korea gave him words of encouragement. They told him that he was their last hope for their world and asked him not to bend his will, but they didn't want him to join any particular nebula. After that, the Dokkaebi announced the result of the succession. First was America's Selena Kim. She decided to succeed Indomitable Aegis, given by the constellation Last Conscience. Dokja already knew she would choose Olympus, and he remembers what the queen asked him earlier. If this was a matter of making enemies, he thinks she must have meant that he should make a choice that encompasses all reincarnation stories, that he has more than one life, and that there will be others who want him to succeed in their reincarnation stories the next time around. He thinks he will never give up on their story of being the first reincarnation, and if he directly succeeds in their stories, he will become their subordinate. After all, the relationship between constellations and incarnations isn't fair. Meanwhile, the Dokkaebi announces the next successor, the Supreme King of Seoul. Dokja thinks he doesn't trust anyone, but that only applies to constellations, and there is actually one person whom he can trust. Then before Jung-hyuk is about to say something, Dokja interrupts him, grabs his hand and announces that he has something to say to them all. He thinks about the succession, which is never fair because it takes the form of sponsorship. All the constellations pay attention to his outburst. Dokja thinks the constellations and incarnations are not on equal footing to begin with. He announces that they have decided not to succeed in their stories, and they will buy their stories. It is revealed that the fabled constellations look down on historical constellations because they are of a higher rank. Nebulae look down on independent constellations because they don't belong to a group. He asks them if they want to sell their stories to Jung-hyuk and him, then they have to make a deal with their nebula. Jung-hyuk talks to him through Midday Rendezvous and asks what he is Dokkaebiing, and he is surprised because he didn't realize they still had time left on Midday Rendezvous when they got it so long ago. He replies that this isn't the first time something like this happened, and he should be used to it by now. He also exclaims that it's not a bad offer for him, and he knows that he can't succeed in any of the constellation stories. Jung-hyuk is shocked and says there is just no telling how much he knows, and Dokja knows that he doesn't succeed in any stories in the original novel. The regression constraints can turn back time through death. In return for that ability, he is not able to succeed in any constellation story. Meanwhile, the Dokkaebi comes to them and asks if they really decided to start a new nebula, and Jung-hyuk agrees with him. The queen laughs at his decision and says this is why she likes him. Meanwhile, other constellations are disappointed in him. Uriel also supports him and says this is a good thing, but the question is, they haven't even reached the state of constellation, so how can they start their own nebula? They ask the Dokkaebi if it makes sense, and he replies that the star stream has acknowledged incarnation Kim Dokja to be worthy enough, and that he is a king of the world without a king. He also broke the throne which held the other world's divine powers, and he fought against a miracle. He was called a fable created from his attributes a long time ago. Now, some constellations are favorable toward him, but they are surprised to see a notification that he is the one who scorned a storyteller. He grabs the Dokkaebi by the collar and asks what he is showing to the constellations, and the Dokkaebi replies that there must be something wrong with the video. Other constellations laugh at him and call him a crazed incarnation. He has also achieved a non-existent story. He has established a total of 4 stories, and the star stream has acknowledged his accomplishments. Everyone is shocked that the shadow of a fabled constellation has already accumulated 4 legendary stories. They are sure that he is going to become a constellation even before the end of the 10th scenario and will be a new constellation like them. The Dokkaebi announces that he will become a constellation if Dokja gains his 5th story. Now, the old man refuses to acknowledge that he is able to form a nebula because there are 2 problems. The first problem is that they don't know whether he has adequate financial capacity. He needs a certain amount of money to form his own nebula. Dokja replies that he has enough coins. The second problem is whether he will be able to find someone to support his nebula. Dokja thinks this is the real challenge because to form one's nebula, one must gain the support of at least 5 constellations. The old man asks everyone which constellations support him in forming his own nebula. He also asks Dokja if he has a name for the nebula, and he replies that their nebula will be called the Dokja Kim Company. But Jungyuk interrupts him and says they don't have a name yet, and as for the supporters, they will find them now. He announces and asks if any constellation is willing to support the forming of their nebula, but no one replies. The old man says it was a waste of time and asks the Dokkaebi to continue the succession. But he is shocked to see the underworld of Olympus, and the queen raises her hand and declares her support for them. The old man tries to stop her, but she says she is free to do what she wants. After that, the prisoner of the golden headband also declares his support, and Uriel also declares her support for them. Jungyuk and Dokja are also shocked at their support. He tells him that is as far as they go, but Dokja says they have what they want. He tells him that he didn't expect to be able to form their own nebula, and all he wanted to do was stall for time. And if all goes according to the novel, the finale of this banquet is already decided. But he is shocked to hear the declaration of Goryo's top swordsman's support. They receive a congratulatory notification that the star stream has acknowledged their accomplishment. Dokja and Jungyuk are both shocked that Goryo's top swordsman has decided to support them. After that, the god of naval warfare and the bald army general also step forward for their support. The Dokkaebi asks them to stop and says they can't suddenly voice their support like that. Dokja is notified that the constellation's secretive plotter supports his nebula, and he starts to look for him but doesn't find him anywhere. He then acquires the ability to form a nebula temporarily, and suddenly everything starts shaking. They feel an immense amount of energy, which seems to be from another world, and a weird thing appears from the sky. The old man comes forward and shouts at them, asking why they have come there. They then hear a voice from above asking why they have not been invited. The queen and Uriel approach Jungyuk and Dokja and cover their ears. The queen apologizes to them and says the party's over, and it's time for all of them to head back. After some time, they open his coffin and decide to take his coat first. But soon one gets scared to see Dokja put his hand on his shoulder and get up. He is notified that someone has acquired 5 stories, and a new constellation is born in the night skies of Seoul. Everyone is surprised by the notification. Meanwhile, Jihye is running to the side of Gilyong and Shin and says this is not important to them right now. They are running from monsters and seem to be in a terrible state. They are currently in the Dark Castle and are hiding from some monsters. They are notified that an ancient magic barrier has formed on the first floor of Dark Castle, and a special barrier will be active for the next 30 minutes. A Tier 5 demon, Dark Tracker, is chasing them, and Jihye thinks this thing spells big trouble for them. But the real problem is Demon Viscount and Locke. Shin asks her what they should do now, because they don't have any more monsters they can call to their aid, and Jihye asks them to think since they still have 30 minutes. She thinks she should have been more careful and goes to the window, where she can see many people running to save their lives. Many of them have turned into zombies and are killing others. She reflects that she was able to survive all this time not because she was strong, but because she was lucky. She wonders what happened to the others and thinks they might have already died. She thinks about her masters and how, if they had been here, they might have survived too. Gilyong says, if only Dokja was here, but she tells him to stop daydreaming and be brave. Shin has a feeling that her master is still alive, but Jihye tells them to remember that he is dead. They buried him with their own eyes. Shin asks her why people call him ugly when she thinks he's the most handsome person. Thanks for watching. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated. And hey, drop a comment if you have thoughts or new ideas or just want to say hi. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care and stay awesome.